Welcome to this week's Ask Charlie. Sorry, that's background noise, but the dogs are all on the move. Lona's got a duck right on cue, so that could be a little bit annoying. I might have to take it off her, but this week I thought we could make some curtains to hide down here. Let me show you down here. So these bar stools arrived last week. I was going to keep this open and it was going to be for recipe books and it was going to be sort of pretty display items. However, we decided that we did need the storage, that was important. So I've put my Kilner jars up there, which look really pretty, and that looks great. But this little lot I want to hide. Now, I went to Falcon Fabrics in Chichester yesterday with Gus and I picked up everything that I need for this little project. So I've got this beautiful green ticking. I'm really sorry about the squeaking dog toy. That's thanks to Coco. This we need, and then the hooks and things. And we are just going to make really simple curtains. I'm actually going to make 4 of them for this space. So 2 and 2. But all on one wire, if that makes sense. So we're going to measure out our fabric and we're going to get sewing. So the first thing that I need to do is carefully measure out my fabric. So because I'm doing 4 curtains, I'm going to do 4 drops, and they're not going to be lined, they're not going to be interlined, they're just really, really simple curtains. This kitchen peninsula is terribly handy for curtain making, and actually I'm going to work from the other end first, which will give us more space. This is my measuring table. So my drop, which means the distance from here to the floor, is 89 centimetres. So I need to have enough for the turning. So I'm going to give myself I'm going to do 105 centimetres from the end there, and I'm going to mark it across with my ruler, and then with my line marked out I'm just going to cut across. Now I use orange handled scissors for my sewing projects, and the children know that they are not for cutting paper. And then I've just measured 1 metre wide, which is my width. So I want them to gather a little bit, but I don't want them to be too full. So now just cutting up, and I'm going to do the same with each 4 panels. Now you might wonder why I've got my ironing board in the kitchen. This is not an ironing video, although we are ironing, because an iron and an ironing board is a seamstress's best friend. So we are going to iron these and then do our turnings, which is going to make it so much easier just to stitch up once they're fully done. So I'm just going to give the whole piece of fabric an iron so there are no creases, and then we can just iron our turnings in, and I'll show you exactly what I mean in a mo. So a ruler is terribly handy for this, but also I'm cheating. I've got striped fabric, which makes it so much easier, and I've cut my fabric square so I can just use the stripe as my guide rather than measuring it. But if you've got a plain fabric, then it's a good idea to measure. And I'm just going to turn it in by 1 centimetre and iron up that line, and then I'm going to turn it back again so that I can take these off and wash them without risk of fraying. So we're doing a proper seam rather than just turning it back once. And this is why it's so handy to have an iron, and you can just iron up your seams, and then your stitch lines are really, really straightforward. So that is that one done. And I'm just going to fold it again. Pop that out of the way, we don't need it. Fold it again, and then iron up. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side seam and all of the other 4 panels, and then I'll come back and show you how I hem it and do the header at the top. So for now, this has got the raw edge of the fabric, so that is easy and straightforward. We'll just fold it along that line and iron up. And then we're going to do our turning for our header, the top part. And I don't have much space above. It's going to be flush. Hang on, Simon's shouting outside. Si, those are Gus's and they're drying. No, don't worry about them. I'll bring them in later. Sorry. Family life. Because I don't have any space above, I'm going to just do a header, just a simple one. If you've got space above, you can create a little bit of space and then have a bit of a frill above if you want to. Now I am going to turn this down by just shy of 5 centimetres. So I've cut that corner off, and now I'm going to measure. I'm going to do 1.5 inches header and just fold that over and iron and just measure along, and then I will measure the others as well, so I make sure that I get even curtains. And you can use pins if you want to stitch with pins, but I actually find if you're using an iron, you don't really need pins. And then I'm going to fold this again, and again it is 1.5 inches. And I'm going to run my cord through this at the top. So I'm going to stitch those first, and then I'm going to leave the length till last, and I want to make sure that all my panels are exactly the same when it comes to hemming them, so they all look nice and even. So I'm now going to do the first side seam. I have popped it in position. I've got my foot down, and I just do a couple by hand just to secure it, and then I will do a couple of reverses, and then we are good to go. Now find a line and stick to it, or use the guide on the side here to try and get your line as nice and straight as you possibly can. We've done the first side seam. We're now going to do the second in exactly the same way. So I always work with the bulk of the fabric out to the left hand side of the machine. This is a Brothers sewing machine which I actually bought for Coco, and mine is an industrial, quite a big heavy machine, and so I actually tend, if I'm just doing simple jobs, just to get this out. So pop the foot down and just run a couple of stitches forward, and then I always do a couple back just to secure it, and then off we go. Find your line and stick to it. When I'm stitching, I always have my hand, my thumb and index finger holding, and then this hand behind, and I just guide from front to back through, or I'll put my hand here, just depending on how you want to work, but it just keeps the fabric nice and flat, and you're not going to get any ruckles as you're stitching. But really important, if you're not using needles, to keep thumb and index finger on that ironed hem that you have done, or iron seam. And then when you get nearing the end, just slowly, 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 don't go off the fabric, one more stitch, and then a couple to reverse, and that just secures it. Lift up the foot, pull it back, and snip. So those 2 side seams are done. That is the bottom. That is the top. So just fold where you've ironed. And it's important to do both the side seams before you do this top part. You might need to re-iron Let's just flatten it down like so and pop it on my machine. And it's quite thick on the seam and bulky, so you might need to guide your machine and give it a little bit of a helping hand. But make sure that you've got this folded and ready to feed in. So again, I will just do, and you want to keep this part here open because that is where you're going to put the wire through. So just do a couple, and then we're going to go back and then forward. You see it's really quite thick. The machine is struggling a little bit, so I've got my hand, you can't see, I've got my hand here on the wheel and I'm just turning it and giving the machine a helping hand through that bulky part, and then pick your line that you're going to guide your foot through. Have this all nice and ready and folded, and off you go. So I have stitched the side seams, the top, and now it's time to do the bottom, and I've got a little system going of popping my panel on here. I have a pencil and a tape measure, and I'm measuring each of the panels to the right length and just popping a pencil mark so I know where we are, and this way I can try to get my curtains as even as possible, and then pop another mark in there. And I've got my iron on and at the ready because it's terribly handy. Make sure you're measuring straight. It's terribly handy to have your iron, and you can just iron in the seams as you go.
Don't want to sleep tonight at all. Just want to watch them stars fall. But you don't want to try to make.
So I've got all of my pencil marks done. I'll just pop that in, pop that there, flip that around, and then turn it up on that line. And iron it. And just check as you go. Yep, there we are. Put a good crease in there, and then, so that is the bottom leg. So I'm now going to open it up and turn this up and just iron that down, and then just give that last line another press, ready for stitching. The clocks have just changed. It's amazing how the daylight suddenly disappears. Right, time to sit down and stitch that line, and then we're ready. We're ready to hang them. And then it's time just to stitch up all of the bottom seams, just like we have done with the other ones. I have pressed all of my curtains, they are here, and I have got my fittings. In fact, I've just noticed that that one isn't very happy, but it's fine, I have an extra. So these are my fittings, and I have got two that look like that, and then the rest are cup ones. And to start with, I'm just going to screw one of these into the end of this wire. This is very clever because these screw into it, which is brilliant. but I'm going to have to cut this to the right size, which is why I'm just going to do one end to start with. So I'll just screw that fully in. Now I'm going to screw these into the wood on the underside of the kitchen island. I found it really challenging trying to screw these hooks into this. I've given up. I don't normally give up, but I've been at it for a good half an hour, and I've even used a hammer and a little Phillips head screwdriver to try and make a hole to then screw in, but this is really tough. It's not happening. I've managed to get the end ones in. Let me show you. The end one into the green down there, and into the green behind me there. I don't know if you can see. Just about. That's perfect because I've got a plan B of using this there as a centre. So that has got glue on the back, and I don't know if I can get one there. We'll see whether it will work or not. I'm going to pop this one in the middle there, and can you see Lola's nose? She's watching very carefully as to what Mummy's doing. And then let's see, is that going to work there? We'll try. It might not be a permanent fixture, but we will see. So these, I just got a line actually, and I use them under the kitchen sink to hang things on. They're quite handy. So I'm going to put another one down there as the centre, and then we're nearly there. Right, let's quickly guesstimate the centre of this. Let's put that there, give that a good press. Then it's time to put our curtains on. So I'm literally just going to thread this through.
Of dreams, just to be seen. I wanna lay here beside you. Oh, quiet.
There's such a sense of achievement when you have done something yourself. I mean, that's a moment of truth. I've got to hang them up. So maybe I'm talking too soon, but I've really loved getting the sewing machine out and doing these.
Fire breath and open sky. It's not what.
There we are. Right. We're going to hook this end on here. And then we need to work out the length of this and what I need to cut it to. So 2 curtains on that side, 2 on this side. Hopefully I've cut it taut enough. I've snipped off the end with my wire cutters, and I'm just going to screw that loop in. I can always cut a little bit more to make it tighter. It looks like it's the right length to the floor, which you can't see that bit because I can't put you far enough back. But let's screw that in, and then moment of truth. My curtains. I'm pretty impressed. I think a little bit of zhuzhing. Those are pretty good. There we are. So we're done. I didn't want to make them too full because then there'd just be too much fabric and they'd get in the way, and we've also got the bar stools and that would be annoying. So I have just done 1 metre per side, so that's like 50 centimetres, so it's sort of double width, whereas I could have gone a little bit fuller, but I didn't want to go over the top, but also I didn't want to skim. So I'm actually really pleased with that. I had long discussions with the lady at Falcon Fabrics, who was very helpful. I will try to get a good picture of it, but it's a little bit difficult because there's a radiator behind you and then the window. But I think this looks so much better than having it open, and I'm very, very pleased with my little bit of DIY. It's great to get the sewing machine out, and it's so much cheaper as well to do it yourself. I will check the receipt to see how much the fabric cost, because I can't remember off the top of my head. So I'm going to go and check that and let you know how much this little lot has cost me. I've just checked my receipt and it cost £79.85 to make this, and I am absolutely thrilled with it. I think it adds a lovely softness. Sorry, Tess is getting a bit dotty. I'm walking around. Do you want to come have a cuddle with Mummy? Is that what you'd like, darling? You want to come and see everybody? She just wants to spend her time in my arms, and that's okay. When I'm sitting down, the dogs see it as an opportunity to come and have a snuggle. But I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. I love the different fabrics, the different materials that we've got in here, from the pine to, you know, that's new pine stained, and then this fabric, and then there's a sample, and you're getting a sneak peek of this because actually I'm sharing it in this week's vlog. I wasn't going to share this as, you know, a how-to video, and then I thought, do you know what, you guys might want to do a little bit of DIY sewing, and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. I can easily take it down to wash the curtains if needs be. I can easily whip them off, and it's just a great addition. And it can hide what I put behind there. It doesn't need to be on display. And when people come in through the kitchen door, it's one of the first things you see. So I don't want it to look ugly. Now it's hidden behind a pretty curtain. And curtains like this are really, really on trend at the moment. So that's another incentive. If you want more sewing from me, I have got a basic beginner's sewing guide that I created. It's an online course, and I will leave it linked down below. I've had lovely feedback on creating that. I have been tinkering around with sewing by hand and machines all my life. I got my first sewing machine from a junk shop in Inverness when I was a small child. It was a Singer that you used with a wheel, and I just love sewing, so it was lovely to get out the machine and to make this, and I'm thrilled with it. Everybody has gone out, they've actually gone to the cinema, and I can't wait to show them what I've created. But in the meantime, have a lovely rest of the week. If you're new to my channel, hit subscribe. If you've liked this video, please press like, because the more people that press like and comment, it helps the algorithm show more people my content, which I would be really, really grateful of. And I will see you on Friday with a new vlog. And lots of love, and thank you for tuning in.
It's where we go. I grow wings and tell her goodbye. Oh, it's not what we see, it's what we choose.